everyone, and welcome to ClearTalk. So in this video, we're going to be talking about Nigeria. Because this, I've noticed, has been a big thing on that Trump has been concentrating on here lately. And I am first to say, I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. I had no clue why he was making a big thing about Nigeria, why these accusations of Christian persecution and all this was going on, and so why we were so interested in trying to get into an apparent conflict over it. So I decided to look into it, and I'm going to share with you what I found out. So thank you very much for joining me. If you are new here, welcome to ClearTalk. If you would like to check out more videos from the channel, please do so. Like, share, comment, all that good stuff to help get more videos in front of more people. If you'd like to check out more from my other channels, please do so as well. The JMD there, Play Puzzling, because consider blah blah blah. Consider just subscribing to those as well. I'm sorry. My mouth is not functioning right now. If you would like to give any kind of support, there's Patreon there for $3 a month. To help grow the channels, to help support the JMD Nation going forward. It helped me improve Patreon for you. Whatever. If you want to, or if you'd rather give a one-time donation or whatever, there. Any way you want to support, be a part of JMD Nation. Anything you can do is very much appreciated, and I thank you very, very much. If you are returning, you are freaking amazing. You are freaking amazing, and thank you very much for coming back over and over and over again, because you are what makes JMD Nation. All right, so I've been seeing this lately. I've seen him throw out this in a couple of his little speeches and stuff, where he's like, Nigeria and the government, they need to stop the killing of Christians, and or we are going to intervene, making them a country of specific, or what does he call it? Country of particular. That's it. Country of particular concern. CPC. I'm like, what's the P word? I'm sorry. And I'm like, what is the deal? What's going on with Nigeria? Because I honestly, genuinely did not know. I'm not going to lie. So I looked into it. But here's a video that he published yesterday on the 5th, late yesterday evening, along with a whole bunch of videos. And we're going to talk about some other stuff in another video. But and so I wanted to first listen to it, and then I'm going to dive into what I have found out is going on here. So, swap over. Here we are. I'm sorry. I've got this ladybug, maybe two of them, in the room here that's frustrating me. I apologize. The ladybugs have lost their minds. They are going crazy right now. They are pretty calm on my house at the moment. My girlfriend's business building over there, though, they are going wild on that building. It is crazy. Thousands of them. And it's just like, whew. But yeah, I think a couple came in on me a minute ago. So anyways, all right. Sorry, I got off topic. Here we are. Let's listen to what Mr. DT here has to say.
If the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria. We're going to do things to Nigeria that Nigeria is not going to be happy about, and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns a blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible, horrible atrocities. I'm hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians. These are cherished people. These are great people. Leave them alone. Warning, the Nigerian government better move fast before it's too late. If they don't, there's going to be hell to pay.
Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. That's some pretty strong words, ain't it? And he has announced, like I said, for them to be CPC. I think he may have even stated this in another video somewhere. Maybe? Am I wrong? Yeah, here we go.
Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. Thousands and thousands of Christians are being killed. Radical Islamists are responsible for this mass slaughter. I am hereby making Nigeria a country of particular concern. That's a legal definition. When the
legal
Christians
definition.
or any such group is slaughtered, like is happening in Nigeria, 3,100 versus 4,476 worldwide. What horrible numbers. Something has to be done. I am asking Congressman Riley Moore, together with Chairman Tom Cole and the House Appropriations Committee, to immediately look into this matter and to report back to me. And I mean, like, immediately. The United States cannot stand by while such atrocities are happening in Nigeria and numerous other countries. It's not only Nigeria, it's all over. We stand ready, willing, and able to save our great Christian population around the world. This is not going to happen. The killing of Christians is not going to happen.
Whoa. We are going ready, bombs blazing, to save our Christian fellows in Nigeria if need be. And I find this, and while I'm going to dive into this whole issue with Nigeria and kind of give you the details of what's been going on, first thing I want to say though is what I find interesting is, okay, because he's making this out to be like this moral, religious like problem that Christians are being persecuted in Nigeria, so we need to intervene. But am I wrong to think here that, for starters, have we not for now 2 years allowed a government to bomb the ever-living hell out of an area that, if I'm not mistaken, includes Christians? But we didn't do anything to stop them while they were doing that. He says that this is the largest, atrocity for Christians in Nigeria here, but I'm curious as to how many Christian Palestinians have died over the past couple of years. I'm very curious to know that. I need to look that up. But nevertheless, it was okay if it was Palestinian Christians, apparently. That was fine. Let Israel bomb the fuck out of them. Those are not the right kind of Christians. But these Nigerian Christians over here, this is a concern. And we need to do something about this. Now, the only thing I can argue that somebody might say in defense is, well, the Israel attacking over there, that wasn't about a religion. I'm gonna ignore that ignorance. But never, in that this over here though, this is about religion because it's extremist Muslims who are attacking over here. Okay, in Nigeria. So I'm like, okay, all right. So what's going on here? The accusations by the administration, okay, is that U.S. Intelligence has found that in Nigeria they are persecuting Christians. That there's these extremist Islamic terrorist groups, which he did point out. He made specific to point out. So understand that this is not the Nigerian government that's doing this. These are non-state actors, Islamic extremist groups who are carrying out militia-type bandit actions, all right, kidnapping, executions, mass killings across different areas of Nigeria. And this has been going on. Okay, this isn't recent. This isn't something that just suddenly developed while he was in his second term. Because Trump actually did this in his first term. This has been going on for quite a while. And Trump, at the very end of his first term, declared Nigeria under the CPC status. But then when Biden took over, they didn't necessarily remove it, but they just didn't add it to their CPC list, status list. So therefore, just sort of removing it without removing it. And Biden's decided to approach the issue in Nigeria differently. His administration tried to be a little more diplomatic, tried to understand that it wasn't a full-on religious issue, that there were many facets and nuances to what was going on in Nigeria, and they felt that applying the CPC status, which sort of encapsulated solely in a religious moral issue, didn't really help in navigating the nuances of what was really going on there. So that's the reason why they allowed that to kind of just go away. But now we have Trump's administration putting it back up under the CPC label, and which has been pushed by religious groups now for years for this to happen. And it's all, like I said, in the name of Christians being killed. But are only Christians being killed? That is the question. And the answer is no. Actually, no. Muslims are being killed just as well. As a matter of fact, the argument is that at least up until recently, the number of deaths respectively, percentage-wise, between Christian and Muslim was actually pretty equal. And it wasn't until the last couple of years that you've had the Christian number actually kind of start to exceed, and that's because of some groups losing some power, some of these Islamic groups losing a little bit of power and leeway, and other groups taking over, and then also the regional shift of how things have been happening, because it's not like the entire country of Nigeria, or like everybody that's being persecuted all live together in the same, or it's like it's not as all Christian areas. You have kind of this area that's Muslim, area that's Christian, area that's kind of a mixture of the two, and so as this flooded, it's like as these groups have moved and adjusted where they were attacking and how they were trying to inflict issues along and take over territory within the country. That has fluctuated, who was being killed, whether it was Muslims or Christians or whatever. But here recently, more the Christian areas have been attacked because of the areas that did hold strongholds, or the groups that held strongholds in the more Muslim areas lost a lot of power because their leader passed away a couple of years ago. And that was honestly the calmer of the Islamic groups. So you have the JAS group, which I actually didn't look much up about. The Boko Haram group, which was which was the group that its leader died in a conflict with this next group, which is the ISWAP, which is a more ISIS affiliated, very heavily armed, and very well trained group of Islamic, non-state Islamic, you could argue, terrorist group. The Boko Haram had their most area of control was mostly in the Muslim areas, and both the ISWAP and the Boko Haram at one point were kind of a whole group, but because of internal issues and like the idea of joining in with or becoming a part of ISIS, wind up separating the group, and you wind up having one group go in the full-on ISIS direction, while the other one did not. Basically, to make it simple, it's a very complicated issue, but just try to make it somewhat simple. That's basically how it goes. And the Boko Haram leader, like I said, he passed away a couple of years ago. So their stronghold has kind of weakened over the past 2 years. So they do not hold as much influence, as much strength, as even, I think, lost a lot of territory that they did control. But the ISWAP has grown their strength and has taken over and moved areas along where they have decided to take over or to commit violent atrocities or whatever. And a lot of those areas they move to are the more Christian areas. And that's the reason why you're seeing an uptick right now over the past couple of years in Christian deaths. Or more Christian affiliated areas. But this is not necessarily, it's not in whole. The argument of whether or not it's Muslim or Christians that are being killed, it doesn't take in whole the point and the reasoning of these groups attacking and killing people. It's actually more so of trying to destabilize the government, trying to push back against Western influence, especially when it comes to the ISWAP. They are, like I said, affiliated with ISIS, which is all around about like going. The Boko Haram also was a negative towards Western influence and education. That's who actually they were one of the first groups that kind of come up. And trying to teach and influence, and were like making the argument that Western education and Western influence was ruining Islam, and teaching them the wrong things. And so it was like a anti-Western push, as far as that group is concerned. And then the ISWAP, though, has taken that to an extreme, with ISIS, and more controlled, more about taking area and property. There's a lot of farmers and herders here that are having conflicts. So it's about taking over land, taking over control of property, controlling areas. The ISWAP is even to some degree started their own like governing system of sorts, collecting taxes and whatnot from the groups that they do control. It's a whole thing there. So it's much deeper than just a religious like issue. Okay, it's very much more, much deeper than that. And you have a lot of not just Christians attacked, but also, like I said, Muslims attacked. So over the years since 2009, you've roughly had, uh, I want to say, let me see, where's the figures that I pulled up earlier? Anywhere, but since 2009, anywhere between 50,000 and 70,000, according to information that has been gathered by different groups or whatnot, anywhere between 50,000 and 70,000 Christians. And also somewhere between 45,000 and 60,000 Muslims. Now, like I said, depending upon where you're looking and how you're figuring it up, sometimes you could figure it up in a way that Muslims have been killed more than Christians, and in other ways, Christians are killed more than Muslims. But either way, they are almost equal. It's just been the past couple of years that Christians' deaths have actually escalated because of the particular regions that are being most concentrated by the ISWAP is Christian held or more Christian influenced areas of Nigeria. So, like I said, that's since 2009 though. That's a long period, long years of how many deaths have occurred. And so this conflict has been going on for quite a while. I have a figure here. No, never mind. I can't get this to come up. But it shows that even the numbers that Trump was stating was a little actually even low apparently over the past year. It actually has been closer potentially to like 7,000 deaths Christian, but in the same period there was still also around 5,000 deaths of Muslims. So this is not this is not just a Christian thing, like I said. But why would we be that like? Why is the concern so much over why make this narrative that is all about Christians or what other reasons could Trump and his administration be concerned about? Actually, there are quite a few issues, and that is not only about because for starters, a majority of Trump's base is very much Christian oriented, and to get them on board with making some sort of aggressive move against a country that otherwise we would be like, what the hell are we doing? Why are we messing with them? Is to state, oh yeah, Christians are being killed, so we got to do something about this. But in actuality, other issues are regional security. Trump's administration polarized bilateral deals rather than big multilateral UN operations. There are this is about like controlling, for starters, the ISIS link, making sure that ISIS does not in any way like take over Nigeria and form a new, more modern ISIS state. So this is potentially in part trying to control this ISIS link with the ISWAP to keep them under control. And then also it's about keeping Russia and China and their interest in the area under control, because China has been one of the biggest infrastructure projects in trying to help structure build railways, ports, and stuff like that in Nigeria. Because from 2017 to 2020, China became Nigeria's largest infrastructure partner. The Trump administration saw this strategic threat to the U.S. influence. So And then we have oil and energy. Nigeria is Africa's largest oil producer with about 1.42 million barrels a day output. So, even though U.S. direct oil ports from Nigeria have declined a little bit, the U.S. still wants to keep Nigeria's oil flowing to the global market, particularly to European allies. So this is, any major conflict in this area that would interrupt oil producing in Nigeria is a problem for the overall oil and global energy. And could cause spikes in global energy. So keeping that stable is of very much interest to the U.S. Protecting global energy chains and foreign corporate assets like ExxonMobil and Chevron. So it's not just, why between the influence of China, Russia, trying to keep them back and held back as far as how much they are influencing, trying to make sure that the U.S. has the most influence with Nigeria. We have the most control over resources. We have the most control over anybody. It's security-wise for the country. That's basically why it's more or less why we are interfering than it is about whether or not Christians are being killed. But Trump knows that a key part of his supporters are particularly American evangelical Christians. And they're highly active on Christian persecution advocacy. And the biggest groups that have been pushing him is the International Christian Concern, Open Doors USA, and Samaritan's Purse. These groups have been lobbying Congress and White House for years about Nigeria and the persecution going on there. So we haven't really concerned ourselves with much more anywhere else. And quite frankly, I personally don't like the argument of us fighting anybody based on some religious aspect, especially when we ourselves are supposed to be like freedom of religion, period. And to argue that we are going into somewhere to defend a particular religion seems a little, especially Christian at that. It makes more of an argument that, so we're only concerned about Christians, we're not really concerned about other religions and how they might be like somehow persecuted in some kind of way. So by labeling Nigeria as a country of particular concern, the U.S. gains leverage in negotiations over arms sales and policy reform. That's the reason why in 2020, the Trump administration approved sales of attack helicopters and counterinsurgency aircrafts, but used the CPC listing as a pressure mechanism for more transparency in military conduct. Cooperation with U.S. training programs and align the broader U.S. counterterror objectives. So persecution served as a diplomatic tool and not so much as a moral statement. Russia's Wagner Group and China's Belt and Road expansion into West Africa has made Nigeria's alignment with them increasingly a concern for the U.S. So the U.S. policymakers saw Nigeria as a regional anchor, control of trade routes through the Gulf of, is it Guinea? Whatever. Counterweight to Russia, mercenary influence in neighboring countries like Mali and Burkina Faso. So, U.S. involvement in Nigeria also reflected the new great power competition in Africa. So we have basically there's a fight for maintaining control in Africa of sources, trade flow, and everything else between the U.S., China, and Russia, and it all sort of brings on Nigeria because they have the largest economy, basically in in Africa. Also has the largest military and capabilities, although those are very limited. So this is not just not just an issue where Christians are being killed, and that's the reason why we need to go in. And boots on the ground is even argued by Trump to like directly fight these these non-state actors. And while I can kind of understand those who find that as an incentive, like the whole, okay, Christians are being killed, so we need to go in, defend them. I see the argue of, ISIS. We need to make sure that they are not in control or do not continue to gain power. But to do that in a way where you are stating that a government, like you're threatening a government to sanction them, to cause, issues with the relationship between us and them in order to argue for you coming in and basically invading their country to fight against what you are deeming a threat, just doesn't seem the best way about going about it. That's the reason why Biden's administration removed it, or basically just did not put them on the CPC list that they put together, and was more trying to work with the government in finding avenues of trying to figure out how to fix the issue, lending them support or whatever, finding a way to work with them to strengthen the trust and communication and working with the government to try to eliminate the issue, or to try to work in a direction that would help the issue. Where here, Trump and his administration is just doing the whole, again, strength, power through strength, peace through strength thing, where you're just acting like a big badass. Oh, if you don't do what we're saying, then we're going to do this and do that, threatening you first. And then, well, if you don't do it, then we're just going to invade you, and we're going to do what we want to do anyway. And hell, who knows? We might just take over the place. It seems like the type of rhetoric that we've heard him in the administration use, even for like Venezuela and other groups that we were attempting to do regime change in, even though that hasn't necessarily come up yet for Nigeria in anything that's been said. But that's the type of rhetoric and the type of actions that, in my opinion, eventually lead to the argument for taking control of the country, or doing a regime change, putting somebody in position that would better suit for controlling the situation. So that, for me, is a concern. And I just think it's the wrong way about going about it. Because it makes it look like the Nigerian government doesn't really care about Christians, or doesn't, in that, if that's the case, then we need to take it over. We need to intervene because we are so concerned about protecting Christians, at least in this instance. And so therefore, boots on the ground. Therefore, declaring an area a combat area for us to go in a an emergency. And I just think it's the wrong way to handle the situation. Now, that's not to say that Biden and his administration did anything really to improve it. But I feel that direction would be more positive in actually trying to fix the situation while also maintaining the relationship and connection with a government that we would most certainly prefer not deciding to strengthen their relationship with somebody else like China or like Russia. And if we just push them away, it's just going to do like we have with other countries where they've just been like, okay, well, fine, we'll fucking go to China. If you're going to be an ass to us, we'll go to China because they seem to be wanting to take care of us. And everything that Trump and his administration have been doing when it comes to other countries and all the threats and everything seem to be causing this type of argument for all of them. Well, we'll just go to, someone else. And the next biggest one is China. So you're not helping the argument of protecting U.S. interest. You're not making the argument for reducing China's influence around the globe. And it's the reason why China's influence around the globe has strengthened to the amount that it is now. And our influence and relationship with a lot of countries have diminished. And it's these same policies. It's the policies he started in his first term and the policies that he's continued and even bolstered in this term. So that's what I've basically broke down a simple version. There's way more nuance than even that, but it's the simplest version I could break down, really, to try to explain kind of what's going on in Nigeria. You have non-state actors who have a problem with Western influence and are trying to rid that, whether it's against the state itself or against anyone who opposes their ideology for Islam, whether they're Christian or Muslim. But at the same time, also trying to gain power and land ownership, control of areas so that they can grow and get more influence to ultimately, more or less, probably take over Nigeria. So that is the concern there. Yes, Christians being persecuted is a concern, but they're not being persecuted solely because they're Christians. And the same thing is just as much of a concern for Muslims being persecuted, even though they are not being persecuted solely because they're Muslim. It's more nuanced and a bigger discussion than that. And simplifying it in the way that Trump and his regime is doing is not helpful. And it doesn't help the situation. It doesn't help relationships between the countries. And it doesn't solve the problem, because the problem is bigger than that. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me, and let me know what you think. And until next time, peace, clear talk, I'm out.